The Detroit Lions are 10-4 through 14 games and will win the NFC North with a victory over the Minnesota Vikings in Week 16. They have the opportunity to not only win the division against the reigning division champions, but win it on their field. And entering the 2023 season, the Lions were expected to take a step and to seriously compete, and they have put themselves in a position where they will probably win the division and host a home playoff game for the first time since 1993. It has been quite the turnaround over the past few years for the Detroit Lions, and in today's video, we are going to explain why they are at a pivotal point. We went over the construction of the current Lions roster before and how GM Brad Holmes nailed 2 picks in his first draft back in 2021 by acquiring 2 key franchise players in tackle Penei Sewell and wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they've only built on it from there. But now that the expectations are higher and that we're near the mountaintop of the rebuild, it is crunch time in the rebuild part for the Detroit Lions, and we're going to break everything down in today's video. Now let's begin. And we are starting today's video by discussing what has gone right for the Lions in 2023, and that is their offense. They are one of the best units in all of football and are led by former number 1 overall pick Jared Goff. And when you look at this offense, there's almost no weaknesses, and the one thing opposing defenses hope for entering each game is that they get the bad version of Jared Goff, which has reared its ugly head a few times during the 2023 season. It happens, and every quarterback has bad games, but it's been few and far between for Goff and the Lions in 2023, and really aside from a few game stretch in which the Lions still managed to go 2-2, it's been mostly up for the Lions this year. And even after an ugly 28-13 loss to the Chicago Bears in Week 14, how did the Lions respond against a team that had won 6 of their last 7 games in the Denver Broncos? How did they respond against a team that had completely flipped its season around and against a team that had forced 17 turnovers in their previous 6 games? Well, you guessed it, Jared threw for 5 touchdowns for just the second time in his career, and the Lions would go on to put up 42 points in a game they desperately needed to get their season back on track and to where they want to be, which of course is to the playoffs. And despite Jared Goff being 3rd in passing yards and tied for 3rd in passing touchdowns, it's not just him on this offense, and this is a big reason as to why the Lions are at a pivotal point. Their rushing attack is very good and is led by a 2-headed monster in veteran David Montgomery and rookie Jahmyr Gibbs. They're 7th in rushing attempts, 2nd in rushing yards, 4th in rushing touchdowns, and they're also 4th in rushing yards per attempt. The Lions are averaging nearly 4.8 yards per carry as a team and have ran for over 100 yards as a team in every game but 2 this year. You can probably guess the Ravens game, as that was a terrible game all around for the Lions, and the other game in which they did not rush for 100 yards was the Bucs game back in Week 6, and all Jared Goff did in that game to combat the lack of run game was throw for 353 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Lions were on their way to a 20-6 victory. And this all plays into the Lions being at a pivotal point because as unfortunate as this is going to sound, and for as good as David Montgomery has played this year, he's not going to last forever. And yes, he is having the best year of his career to date, as he is averaging a career high in yards per carry and has already set a career high in rushing touchdowns with 10, but the running back contract discussion was had countless times over the summer, and this also applies to David, who is in year 5 and is 26 years old. Forget the old adage of being a 30-year-old running back, as that's a lifetime ago in the NFL, and the span for running backs in today's NFL is significantly shorter. And I do think Monty will still have a decent year next year, but I don't think the Gibbs and Monty duo is something we can expect for the next 4 or 5 years, and that they're each going to have the types of years they are currently having. Jahmyr broke the 1,000 total yard mark first between the two, and I fully expect Monty to break the 1,000 total yard mark before season's end, but with running back duos like this, they're almost over before the national media really catches on to what these two are doing. And the media doesn't talk about these guys when they talk about the Lions. It's usually about Dan Campbell and how the culture has been flipped and how nice it would be for the Lions to win a playoff game. So when the media decides to give these guys their flowers, the time they're going to have together is almost going to be over. And this duo reminds me a lot of Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram when they were with the Saints, and for as fun as those two were together in the late 2010s, it may surprise you that they were only together for a full 2 seasons. Mark would go on to play for Baltimore in 2019 and 2020, before being a shell of himself when he was past his prime in 2021 and 2022. And with how physically demanding the NFL is, injuries are going to be a part of the game. But injuries occur in real life too, and I even dislocated my knee a couple of years ago. And submitting injury claim with Morgan & Morgan is easy, and you can submit an injury claim in 8 clicks or less. Best of all, you don't have to leave your couch. There's no nightmare scenario where you're sitting in an uncomfortable office for hours at a time and through tedious consultations. They have over 4,000 support staff available at any hour to help with your case, and if you have a case question, their staff is dedicated to making your experience as painless as possible. Morgan & Morgan has recovered over $15 billion for their clients, and you only pay if they win. There's no upfront costs, sign-up fees, or any of that nonsense. If you don't win, your case is completely free of charge. And if you are injured, you can submit a claim at www.forthepeople.com/footballanalysis or by using the link in the description. And not only are David and Jahmyr on a limited time frame together due in large part to the average career length of the position they play, but there's another critical piece of the Lions offense that we all expect to depart from the Lions organization at some point and go be a head coach on his own, and that's Ben Johnson. I have said before in the channel how much I love Ben Johnson, and one of the best things Ben does as a play caller is keep the opposing defense off balance. And one of the things I love that Ben does, and he does this quite a bit as a play caller, and I want you to pay attention to this if you watch any Lions games the rest of the year, but one thing Ben loves to do is get the run game going early and often, and whether that's with Jahmyr or David is irrelevant, as long as the defense has to respect it, which with a top 5 rushing attack they of course do, then essentially pull the chair from underneath the defense and call a play-action dagger concept where a receiver, and I've seen Josh Reynolds specifically be the receiver a few times while watching tape, catch a pass across the middle and take it anywhere from 15 to 25 yards. And the reason this is brought up with Ben Johnson is not every offensive coordinator wants to be an offensive coordinator forever. And obviously I don't know Ben personally to ask him this or to have any sort of insight, but there is a real chance he will have the opportunity of a lifetime this offseason and become the head coach of either the Chargers, who of course have one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league when healthy in Justin Herbert, or go coach the Bears, who will also have the opportunity of a lifetime to draft Caleb Williams at number 1 overall and potentially draft another top receiver in the draft in the top 7 or 8 picks, and perhaps somebody like Malik Nabers from LSU. So there is a decent chance we are watching the last few games of Ben Johnson being the Lions offensive coordinator. And with Ben, he will have his choosing of where he wants to go be a head coach. It's not like Ben is going to be a 3rd or 4th tier guy. And how this plays into the Lions being at a pivotal point is, look what's happened to the Chiefs offense since Eric Bieniemy left. Obviously there is a lot that goes into that, and it's not as simple as Eric left and they stink now, but the point is Ben is a very good play caller and he is a very good offensive mind that I think a lot of players are being maximized with what they can do. And that of course is a good thing, but I do think there will be an impact when or if Johnson leaves, presumably this offseason. Now, for clarity, that doesn't mean the Lions go from having a top 5 scoring offense to down in the dumps and find themselves in the bottom 5 of all scoring offenses, but it is reasonable to think there would be an impact on the offense when Johnson left. And another thing worth noting for the Detroit Lions regarding their future and regarding why they need to win at least one playoff game this year is it's almost time to pay quarterback Jared Goff. Goff will be a free agent after the 2024 season, and you will hear about Goff getting another contract this offseason. And in fact, you'll probably hear a lot about it. Goff is only, and I say only in quotations because it's an enormous amount of money to a non-NFL player, but he is only guaranteed $5 million in 2024, and Jared, rightfully so, will be looking to secure another long-term contract and to have the financial security and commitment from the organization. When he was traded from the Rams to the Lions, the thought process was a lot of, oh, okay, good for the Lions. They have their bridge quarterback, and if they want to use either of the first-round picks from the Rams they acquired in the Stafford trade to go up and get one, they can probably use one and get their guy to replace Jared. But Jared has played well since becoming a Lion, and now we're at a crossroads. Because while Lions fans would acknowledge Jared has done well as a successor to Matt Stafford, and has probably exceeded expectations they had for him entering the Jared Goff era, I think asking Lions fans how they would feel coughing up a 3-year, $150 million contract or a 4-year, $200 million contract to Jared would be a completely different discussion, and this is the crossroads we are entering with the Detroit Lions. Do you pay Jared Goff like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, or Jalen Hurts, who all got paid north of $50 million per year? Or do you effectively try and roll the dice in the draft with a rookie quarterback and hope he can become a franchise quarterback while getting paid about a tenth of what Goff would be paid in 2024 and beyond? And if you want to get into the discussion of whether Goff gets $50 million per year and say he doesn't quite get that much, then that's fine, but please know Daniel Jones got $40 million per year last year, and there's no chance Goff takes less than $40 per year, knowing that happened not even 12 months ago. And not only will Goff be getting paid this offseason, but we'll also hear the discussion around wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown too, whose final year of his rookie deal is in 2024, and he will want to get paid anywhere from, we'll conservatively say, 27 or 28 per year. And especially in Amon-Ra's case, the Lions are going to have to pay him as he is one of the best receivers in the NFL, and that would set a terrible precedent if you traded him simply because you didn't want to pay him. And then after Amon-Ra's contract is Penei Sewell's contract, and then after that it's Aiden Hutchinson's contract, and you get the point. The decision to pay Jared Goff this offseason or to roll with a young quarterback is a critical decision, and if I had to choose which route I think they will go, I think they will opt to pay Jared Goff. The reason they wouldn't pay Goff is because they would think Goff is not a good enough quarterback to not be the guy to win this team a Super Bowl. And that's a big reason why the next month and some change are absolutely vital to the long-term part of the Lions' success. And we can play out the scenarios for teams getting into the postseason and ultimately who will play the Lions in Detroit in the wild card round of the playoffs. But what if a Nick Mullins-led Vikings team goes in and beats the Lions in the first playoff game of the Dan Campbell era? I don't think that would happen, but you never know in January. And the possibility of this next scenario is more real than Lions fans probably want to think. But what if Matt Stafford comes back as a Ram and beats the Lions at Ford Field and sends them home? These are all big things to think about over the next month because we've come a long way since the initial biting kneecaps opening press conference. Everything that has been talked about and planned over the past 2+ years is finally here, and it's right in front of Detroit. Admittedly, I don't think this team or any NFC team for that matter would go to San Francisco and beat the 49ers, especially if they're on. So I don't want this video to seem like it's a Super Bowl or bust year for the Lions, the first year where they win the division and look like the future is right in front of them, but I am under the belief they need to win a playoff game this year. They have a lot of contracts coming up along with at least one big inevitable coaching departure, and the next month for the Detroit Lions is extremely pivotal relative to the future decisions this franchise makes. The decisions and actions this franchise has made over the past 35 months will boil down to the play on the field in the next 30+ days. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 31% of people watching are subscribed, and it helps the channel tremendously. And until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.